A pouch of Big League Chew.
And Max Muncy, I want to congratulate Max. Max. Come here, Max. His arms are very strong when I touch them. I'm used to shaking politicians and hitting their armors like Jell-O. And now it's like steel, all these guys.
Steel? Well, put a tariff on it then.
Donald Trump was likely anticipating a calm night filled with self-praise and scrolling through Truth Social, until Jimmy Kimmel torched his ego live on air with jabs more cutting than Trump's lawyers and comedic timing precise enough to put a stopwatch on trial. Kimmel didn't just roast the former president, he incinerated him in satire and plated the remains with a generous helping of embarrassment. So, what exactly did Kimmel say that had the studio audience gasping in disbelief? And why is Trump back to rage posting in all caps? Let's break down the meltdown.
Sites, you know, a lot of fans are wondering why the Dodgers organization, the Dodgers players, would have anything to do with Trump, why they would go. We have to remember, we had a big fire here at the beginning of the year, and Donald Trump is the one who, 5 days after the fires went out, turned on an imaginary valve and sent millions of gallons of water hundreds of miles away from here. So we owe him. We at least owed him this.
Before we dive any deeper, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. You're not going to want to sit this one out. Just when it seemed like the economic anxiety meter couldn't tick any higher without breaking, Trump grabbed the mic once more and dropped a fresh round of tariffs on everything from Chinese EVs to steel and aluminum. Honestly, if he could have, he might have taxed fortune cookies too, just for being a little too insightful. The official reason? Supposedly to shield American manufacturers. The actual effect? A deja vu-inducing rerun of the 2018 trade war that nobody asked for, complete with financial whiplash, outraged farmers, and Wall Street reaching for the Tums.
I have to say, this visit from the Dodgers was a nice distraction for Trump from the fact that he is busy destroying the world economy. It was another terrifying day on Wall Street. The Dow was down, the S&P was down, cocaine was up. The S&P 500 has lost more than 10% of its total value since Thursday, costing Americans billions of dollars from their stock portfolios and retirement funds. But here's the thing about Donald Trump. He doesn't care about money. He knows that there are more important things in life.
Naturally, the economy reacted the way someone does when they bump into a toxic ex at the grocery store, panicked, disoriented, and halfway to the exit. Prices are now set to climb quicker than a Mar-a-Lago membership fee, while American manufacturers are left nervously chewing their nails. Why? Because the critical materials they rely on to stay in the game just got slapped with sky-high costs, tangled in bureaucracy, and delayed if they show up at all.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine.
Meanwhile, economists nationwide are massaging their temples and muttering soothing affirmations to their spreadsheets, desperately trying to figure out how taxing vital imports benefits anyone, aside from dusty flag manufacturers and folks who still think Amazon is just a river in South America. And right at the center of this economic circus, Jimmy Kimmel honed his monologue like a chef getting ready to carve into an especially overdone holiday ham.
Night of pomposity and circumstance as Donald Trump addressed a joint session of Congress because, he rarely gets to be on TV, so why not? And so anytime this maniac speaks, it is a joint session. It's a joint session, it's an edible session, it's a raid the medicine cabinet for anything to dull the pain kind of night. And tonight was no exception. His speech started late, and I guess they were waiting for that last coat of shellac to dry on his face, but the reviews are in, and guess what? He did great, according to Fox News anyway. Mostly English-sounding words, semi-coherently strung together without any visible on-air defecation, a masterpiece.
You could practically hear the nationwide gasp from late-night viewers. Kimmel wasn't just taking shots at Trump. He came locked and loaded with the receipts, the zingers, and that signature smirk that screamed, "I've had this one locked in since 2019. Let's be real. Trump slapping on tariffs in the name of protecting America, while the markets spiral and factories brace for pink slips, is like torching your own house to keep intruders out. Bold, chaotic, and absolutely made for viral headlines.
Mr. Speaker, members of Congress, Please welcome Diaper Donnie, Man Boot Mussolini, Captain Bone Spurs, Mar-a-Lardo, the notorious P.I.G., General Von Schitzenpants, Putin's Pork Bucket, His Flatulency, the President of the United States, Donald Jellybelly Trump.
Members of the Trump family were there. Eric was.
And Kimmel? He clocked the hypocrisy stacked taller than a Trump Tower penthouse. On one hand, Trump's shouting about China stealing American jobs. On the other, he's spent years slapping his name on products made everywhere but the US. We're talking Trump ties manufactured in China, steaks sourced from Uruguay, and bottled water from somewhere that definitely wasn't Flint, Michigan. So while Trump was revving up a trade war sequel no one asked for, despite never wrapping up the first, Kimmel stepped up with the calm of a man staging an economic intervention through comedy. No shouting, no theatrics, just razor-sharp sarcasm and a walk down fiscal memory lane, and then it hit. The storm landed. Donald Trump, the same guy who once crowned himself a stable genius, likely forgetting how many syllables are in stable, just got roasted live on national television. And not your garden variety late-night ribbing either. This was a comedy execution. Punchlines so precise, they sliced through Trump's ego like a hot knife through Velveeta.
Eclipse is not a solar eclipse, so there's no chance that anyone, including our president, will inadvertently blind himself again. Wow, you know, I was thinking today, what a dumb guy we picked for president. You know how he fired all those federal workers without even knowing what they do? Well, a judge today ordered thousands of them to be rehired just in time for the government to shut down tomorrow. Things are running like a Swiss clock.
But before we get to Kimmel's masterclass in comedic annihilation, let's hit rewind and break down what led to this spectacular takedown. Spoiler: it involves Trump indulging in his all-time favorite hobby, starting trade wars with the long-term planning skills of a squirrel stockpiling bottle caps. It all kicked off when Trump, in a flash of economic brilliance only he could confuse for genius, proudly rolled out a fresh wave of tariffs. This time, his targets included Chinese electric vehicles, steel, aluminum, and basically anything that even vaguely smells foreign. Because nothing screams, "Make America Great Again," like lighting inflation on fire while engaging in an ego-driven standoff with the world's second-largest economy. Trump revealed the tariffs with the enthusiasm of a toddler presenting crayon scribbles to a room full of unimpressed adults. And just as everyone was trying to figure out why he insists on treating the US economy like a Monopoly game played by a sugar-high cat, boom, the leaks hit. And not just any leaks. This was a Shakespearean-level drama of dysfunction. Behind closed doors, Trump's own advisors were reportedly in meltdown mode. The internal group chats, packed with panic. Concerns that the tariffs could boomerang, reminders that Trump doesn't actually grasp how tariffs function, and desperate suggestions that maybe, just maybe, someone should sit him down and explain that China doesn't foot the bill for tariffs. Americans do.
We're getting more details on what former years of Trump might look like, courtesy of Trump himself. He sat for an interview with Time magazine where he laid out his priorities for a second term, and it's quite a his comp, I tell you. Trump says, all true, what I'm about to inform you. He says he would carry out a deportation operation to remove more than 11 million people from the country. He says he would use the military to build migrant detention camps. He would let red states monitor women's pregnancies and prosecute those who violate abortion bans. He would, at his personal
Naturally, once Jimmy Kimmel got his hands on that goldmine of leaked chaos, he did exactly what any red-blooded American comedian with a primetime slot would do. He vaporized them in front of millions, live on air, with zero chill. And about 10 gallons of sarcasm. Kimmel kicked off his monologue with all the subtlety of a frozen frying pan to the face. He tore into the leaked messages like they were scenes from a rejected reality show called Dumb Dynasty. And honestly, he didn't even need to punch up the jokes. The material roasted itself. Typos, emojis, one advisor seriously asking if tariffs earn patriotic points. This wasn't policymaking. It was a group project gone completely off the rails. And nobody brought the glue sticks. As for Trump, Kimmel carved into him like a budget steak sizzling at a Mar-a-Lago cookout. From dragging his cartoonish understanding of economics to highlighting his yo-yo relationship with China, praising them one day, blaming them for his cholesterol the next, Kimmel held nothing back. It was like watching someone audition for a Netflix roast special titled How to Lose a Country in 10 Tweets. And those infamous tariffs, Kimmel broke them down in terms so clear, even Trump might have had a shot at getting it. They may sound tough, but in reality, they're just taxes on imports. meaning regular Americans are the ones footing the bill, not the countries he's picking fights with.
This Donald Trump, is like the Emperor from Star Wars. He's old, he's evil, and he keeps coming back with no reasonable explanation whatsoever. Just when they finally scrubbed the last of the ketchup off those White House walls. I'm still trying to figure out what happened. Babe, be honest. Last week, did you guys send that monologue to a Republican like I asked you to?
Which means, in plain terms, Americans end up shelling out more cash for the exact same products. So congrats everyone. You might now pay an extra $2,000 for a refrigerator. Also, Trump can cosplay as a tough guy punching China in the face. Yay, economic patriotism. And let's not forget the sequel no one asked for, the 2018 trade war fiasco. Back then, Trump slapped tariffs on over $360 billion in Chinese imports. And now, with even less planning and even more bravado, it's like he stared into the flames of that economic dumpster fire and thought, you know what this needs? More gasoline. Fox Business tried to cover it with segments so painfully awkward, they felt more like hostage tapes than financial news. Meanwhile, Trump, right on cue, bolted to Truth Social around midnight to call Kimmel a loser and somehow blamed China for everything from inflation to the Kardashians. But Kimmel wasn't done. He aired a brutal supercut of Trump contradicting himself on China over the years, calling them friends in 2017, thieves in 2018, very fine people in 2019, and by 2020, accusing them of inventing both COVID and TikTok. It wasn't so much a policy stance as it was a chaotic bingo card of international paranoia.
I have to admit, it's so great to finally have an energetic young president again.
Let's all dedicate themselves to governing in our land. Fill them with the love of truth and strength to uphold our democracy and the rule of law. Enable us to be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to other nations of the world. May we serve you faithfully in our generation.
That was our president sleep farting his way through a service held in his honor at the Washington National Cathedral.
And the visual aids? Oh, they were a thing of beauty. Kimmel presented charts showing how the tariffs would disproportionately hammer the Midwest, paired with side-by-side footage of Trump making one statement, then immediately contradicting himself, like his brain was buffering. At one point, Kimmel quipped, "Trump's economic strategy is just throwing darts at a world map with his eyes closed." Meanwhile, the leaked text chain was getting memed into oblivion. Twitter users reenacted it using sock puppets, while late-night writers crowned it the new constitution of stupidity. It read like a series of notes passed in the back of a failing economics class. One advisor seriously asked if Tesla should now be considered Chinese because it has a factory in Shanghai, while another wondered if tariffs applied to TikTok dances. By now, the damage was done. Kimmel's monologue had gone viral. Mainstream news outlets picked it up. Economists were tweeting their applause, and the White House, ever so subtly, threw in a jab by reposting Kimmel's segment with the caption, "Leadership Matters."
But our president has a plan to change that all. They say ignorance is bliss, and today Donald Trump signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. I know it sounds like a joke, but it's not. Trump famously said he loves the poorly educated, and now we will have so many more people to love. Trump signed the order during an event at the White House. They invited a group of children to attend. They're like, "Hey, kids, who hates school?" And they're like, "Well, we do." And they said, "Well, good news, it's over."
And here's the kicker. This wasn't just comedy. It was catharsis. We've hit the point where late-night comedians are doing more to educate the public on economic policy than the actual former president of the United States. And the people? They're listening. Swing voters in Michigan and Wisconsin, the true MVPs of the Electoral College, are watching as their manufacturing jobs teeter on the edge of uncertainty. Small businesses brace for rising costs, and average Americans start realizing that every time Trump opens his mouth on trade, their wallets take the hit. In fact, one recent poll showed Trump's approval rating among independents took a dive after the tariff announcement. Turns out, folks aren't thrilled about paying more for phone chargers and toasters just so Trump can have a trade war cosplay moment. The Biden team, never one to miss an opportunity, jumped right in. They quietly dropped an ad, no words, just footage of Kimmel's savage takedown spliced with real Trump speeches. It was brutal, it was subtle, and most importantly, it was perfect.
Makes a What makes a Donald Trump presidency more spasmodically volatile than other presidencies is that their first instinct when something like this happens is to bury something that embarrasses them under a steaming pile of what, Guillermo?
Bull.
Of bull.
Yeah, bull. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And this is one of those like Star Wars where we'll be getting backstory and prequels and sequels for many years to come. So the original story published in The Atlantic was this: the Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans by Jeffrey Goldberg. And that pretty much sums it up. That's what happened. But these people, they can't just admit they screwed up, even though it's right there in front of our eyes. It's as plain as day.
Trump's response? Even more rambling this time. He claimed the tariffs would bring jobs back, lower inflation, and somehow fix the national debt, because apparently tariffs are now magical beans capable of solving all our problems. He also threatened to slap tariffs on the entire European Union if they didn't stop being so French, whatever that means. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more ridiculous, someone dug up an old tweet from Trump in 2011 where he said, and I kid you not, tariffs are a tax on the American people. Yep, before he reinvented himself as the walking, talking embodiment of a trade war. So, to recap, Trump launched a tariff blitz with zero strategy, got roasted by his own advisors in a group chat that could have been a comedy skit, then got publicly, shredded by Jimmy Kimmel in front of millions, and somehow he still thinks he's winning. At this point, the only people backing Trump's economic plans are those who think GDP stands for guns, Donald, and patriotism.
It's been an exciting week for Fox News. Trump squatted down for a two-part chat with Laura Ingraham. They covered a wide range of subjects, including his son Barron.
You talked the other day about how music was your aptitude as a child. But is Barron's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I'd try turning off his car, I'd turn it off, I'd turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like we've got a budding Bill Gates on our hands.
Kimmel wrapped up the monologue with a line that might just go down in late-night history. Trump's tariffs are the economic version of eating glue and calling it a protein shake. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Because if there's one thing Trump has taught us, it's that no matter how many times the economy stumbles, no matter how many experts warn him, or how many group chats expose him, he will always double down. On nonsense, ego, and bad ideas wrapped in catchy buzzwords and sprinkled with pure delusion. And just like that, the tariff stunt turned into a full-blown three-ring circus with Trump as the ringmaster, juggling fireballs labeled economy, re-election, and basic logic, somehow managing to drop them all at once. Within hours of the tariff announcement, markets wobbled, manufacturers freaked out, and somewhere in Beijing, trade officials kicked back with popcorn, ready to watch the chaos unfold.
A proclamation that proclaims March 2025 as Women's History Month in honor of all the wonderful women in your administration, all the wonderful women in America, and in honor of everything you've done for women and this administration has done for women in just, a month and a half? So.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and women have done a lot for us, right? This is an honor. Women, we love you.
He always knows the right.
Then came the text chain leak, because of course there was a text chain. Every campaign meltdown now comes with a side of digital receipts, and this one was a glorious disaster. Team Trump's group chat read less like a well-oiled political machine and more like the frantic chatter of a high school drama club after someone flubbed their lines during opening night. Internal panic leaked out like a cracked MAGA thermos. Confusion, finger-pointing, and at least 3 uses of WTF in all caps. Aides were scrambling to figure out whether they should spin this as economic brilliance or some next-level 4D chess, while donors texted back, call me when he stops yelling at Ford, and then enter Jimmy Kimmel with a monologue that'll be talked about in comedy circles for years to come. He didn't just roast Trump, he slow-roasted him like a thriller brisket at a state fair, low heat, high smoke, and a glaze of pure sarcasm. Kimmel walked out on stage like a man who had just been handed a gift-wrapped scandal and a 24-karat golden punchline license. He hit every note, The tariffs, the leaked texts, the sheer absurdity of trying to fight a 21st century trade war with 19th century thinking and Wi-Fi that barely works in Mar-a-Lago. He painted a picture so vivid, you could practically see Trump pacing around his golf course in a windbreaker, muttering about Chinese magnets and blaming solar panels for inflation.
Of deadly storms, 42 Americans were killed in tornadoes and wildfires in several states. And while the devastation was happening, our commander-in-chief meteorologist was back at Mar-a-Lago, again playing golf. As the storms raged, he offered these words of comfort to those who lost their families and their homes. He wrote, "I just won the golf club championship, probably my last, at Trump International Golf Club in Palm Beach County, Florida. Such a great honor. The awards dinner is tonight at the club. I want to thank the wonderful golf staff and all of the many fantastic golfers that participated in the event. Such fun indeed."
Kimmel's takedown didn't just sting, it landed with the force of a freight train. The clip skyrocketed to millions of views overnight, with TikTok teens, Wall Street analysts, and even the occasional weary Republican strategist all finding themselves watching the same video and whispering some variation of, well, he's not wrong. Trump's promised comeback tour had officially turned into a traveling blooper reel, with the Secret Service scrambling to keep the gaffes off camera. As Kimmel wrapped up his monologue, sporting that signature smirk that said, "I'm not done, but I'll give you a second to recover," the message was crystal clear. When your policies are a mess, your inner circle is leaking panic, and even comedians are fact-checking your nonsense better than CNN, maybe, just maybe, it's time to log off. Or, keep tweeting. It's good for the ratings.